At Green Abundance, we believe there's immense potential in the suburban landscape. We just see that the old ideas and memes around traditional landscaping are in need of a refresh. So we're here today at our client's property to show her how this old lawn can be a green abundant future. Come join us. Hi, how's it going?
Hi,
I'm Andrew.
I'm Jessica.
Nice to meet you, Jessica.
Nice to meet you, Andrew. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having us out. So, yeah, we're here in Natick, Massachusetts. Beautiful community here. And Jessica reached out to us because she's having some problem areas in her landscape and wanted Green Abundance to see what we could do to help make this space abundant, green, and ecological.
So we moved into this house in 2019 in the summertime, and coming from the city, this was a big shift. Now I have all of this land, I have plantings to learn about, and it's a pretty big space.
And your story is very similar to a lot of our clients that moved from the city and are now in the suburban area. And it's definitely a different scale and a different thought process in terms of how to manage these spaces that you're not necessarily intimately familiar with, because there is a lot of nuance in understanding how these spaces are maintained. And there's certainly always the option of the traditional maintenance protocols and the traditional landscaping. But I think with spaces like this that are really beautiful and just have a lot of potential, though, to steer it in a slightly different direction, that's not only going to be ornamentally beautiful, but also ecologically valuable for the space. So why don't we go take a look at the first space and we can see what we're working with.
Great.
Excellent.
So here we are on my front lawn. This is the other side of the driveway from where we were before, and this lawn is it's so big. It gets a lot of afternoon sun. It's a lot to manage. We do water and mow weekly, but I'm just wondering, what else would we do with this space?
Sure, for sure. So this is a very common request that we get, especially from clients that are moving from the city to the suburbs where they're not used to having to manage such a large grass-only type space. And there's different, let's put it this way, stages of approaches. And the first stage that I look at is just making the existing lawn better is what we call the flowering lawn. And so that's overseeding flowers that are going to tolerate that frequent mowing within the existing grass space, but still offer flowering potential, sources of nectar for pollinators, and just kind of extend the visual interest and the tapestry of what could be in a space like this. And so the second approach that we would look at is, if you really want to start carving out and really kind of reshaping and recontextualizing the space, going in the direction of a meadow, that's where we look at the Mowable meadow. And the Mowable meadow is an approach to this where we're deliberately leaving certain section of the space unmowed throughout the season. We're still mowing the borders, we're still mowing pathways, and we have, through the use of mowing, the ability to kind of decide what sections we want to grow tall as a meadow look and which sections we want to keep as a more formally manicured space. And so within that space, there is the opportunity to also overseed flowers into the unmowed areas, and that just offers a different level of options as to what could be seeded because it's not being mowed. The variability with that is depending on the health of the grass. The healthier the grass, the harder it is to get flowers into it. But if you have generally weaker grass or you have patches of sporadic growth, those are all great vector points and avenues in which to introduce native wildflowers into those spaces. So it's not a bulletproof solution. A lot of it is going to be a grass dominant space, but it's really that way to look and take into that next aesthetic approach and recontextualization of the space. And then the kind of third level approach is really formally deciding this is going to be a spot that's going to be a meadow, and we're going to make it so. And that comes in through the form of either seeding or through transplanting. And the seeded approach has its benefits mostly in terms of cost and scale. So you're able to, much more cost effectively transform a space with seed than you are with transplants. The downside of that is it does take a bit longer to mature, 3 to 5 years in terms of the whole variety of seeds that would be planted before flowering. But it would be that long-term cost effective. It wouldn't need to be watered, it wouldn't need to be fertilized, you'd mow it once a year. It has great benefits, especially in the summer when your cool season grass, turf grass, is gonna go dormant when it heats up and there's not as much rain.
Yeah.
That's gonna really thrive under those conditions.
Yeah.
So it's a great way to balance out the life cycle of the existing lawn where it goes dormant and it's down mowed. That's when the meadow is really at its best. And then the other approach that is certainly possible at scale but much more expensive is what we call the suburban meadow. And the suburban meadow is actually transplanting mature rooted grasses and wildflowers into a bed-like space and being able to have a really quick to establish and formally designed and planted meadow aesthetic.
Right.
And so that's typically what we steer our clients towards if they want something that's going to signal the most design, the most intention behind it, because we're really able to formally structure that planting with using blocks of the same type plants and patterns that repeat throughout that a seeded approach isn't going to offer. So I think there was one more spot that you had in mind that's over on the side there that we can discuss.
Yes. Let's go take a look at it.
Excellent. So Jessica, you were telling me earlier about this spot in your landscape in particular and the problems that you've been having. So why don't you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, so this is another section of my property. It's a little bit further removed from the house. When we first moved in, it was just a huge mulched bed of nothing. This is an area that I would like it to look good. I'd like it to be native and ecologically friendly. There's no irrigation over here, so I don't want this to be high maintenance, and I really don't want to weed it anymore.
Totally.
So I don't know, what do you think? What can we do here?
So what I'm thinking here and what I'm looking at is we want plant layers that start at 2 feet and go up to maybe 3, even 4 in the backside, because we're not going to be out competing our shrubs here because we have that 8 foot tall and above layer there. So we're really looking at framing those with an aggressive native palette, and it's things like, you know, on the shadier side, things like northern sea oats, that's going to self-seed and readily spread in this area and be very competitive while also nice and ornamental, beautiful seed heads. Things like pycnanthemum, mountain mint. So it's not a true mint like you're used to seeing as a culinary mint. And so that'll fill in beautifully and spread out. And this is also where I'd look at things like goldenrod, where I wouldn't put it anywhere near a garden bed. Goldenrod is going to be very competitive and is also a super high value native plant to be able to fit in here. And that'll spread very nicely and fill in very aggressively. So that's how I really look towards this space in particular, is go thuggish, get the high value natives that don't fit into other elements of your landscape. You'll never have to worry about fertilizing and watering them. It'll be a great source for the pollinators, and it's going to really hold up well to the pressures of very aggressive weeds.
Yeah, that sounds ideal.
Perfect. Excellent.
Thank you.
So there we have it. I'd like to thank Jessica for inviting us to her landscape, which is quite beautiful, and I hope that today offered some new solutions and new ideas for how you can manage it.
This was great, very informative, and you've given me a lot of great stuff to think about. Thank you for coming.
Of course, my pleasure. We'll see you again next time on This Old Lawn.